I think audiences want a TV show to watch and not a 9-hour movie that it's like you got to get through the first 3 episodes because it really picks up in episode 4.
I hate that excuse. I hear it all the time. You just got to suffer through. No, I don't want to suffer through 3 or 4 episodes to get to maybe a good part of the project.
Like your pilot isn't a good pilot if all the important stuff happens in episode 2.
Exactly.
Yep.
Hey, welcome everyone to the Kinolime Podcast. How are you? John Schramm.
Danny Murray.
So we're here to talk with an amazing guest today, Zack Morrison. Yes, we're going to get into the Zack Morris Saved by the Bell quotes and comments. But Zack, how are you? Welcome to the Kinolime Podcast. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. This is awesome.
So Danny, run the list about Zack. He's a screenwriter, producer, filmmaker.
Late Night with Seth Meyers. You've worked on Fallon, a New York comedy guy, an East Coast guy, now an LA filmmaker.
But more importantly, we're here to talk because, Zack, I don't know you. We're going to get to know you now. But you just seem you hustle. You're hustling to work. You're always doing something, making your own way into the world of the arts and film and TV. So I'm so happy that we get to speak to you. And really, thanks again for taking the time to hop on.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm appreciate you going through the long resume. Sometimes I forget all the details. But no, to your point, I mean, I've always been a guy who enjoys making stuff, and the grind never ends. So I feel the energy is in. We're all in the same place,
We are. We're all in this big creative boat, just trying to make it to the next
Trying not
pasture.
to sink.
Trying not to. I was saying next pasture, not to sink. I get it. But Zack, take us through. I always like to talk about origin stories, right?
Yeah.
When did you discover your love? Now, again, forgive me. Is it more film, TV? Is it just storytelling in general? What's your true passion?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I want to say both, and I know that's a terrible answer, but I mean, for me, it's always been filmmaking and visual storytelling has always kind of been sort of the guiding light for me. And then simultaneously, I learned at a very young age that I could be funny. And comedy was always the kind of backbone of all the pieces that I did when I was kind of first starting up. So, to backtrack, what really did it was when I was, 8 years old, 9 years old, it was right around 9/11. I was a big Lego fan, and as a kid I would always on Christmas or whatever build Lego sets, and every year it'd be a pirate ship or a Star Wars thing.
And this is in New Jersey. You're Northeast.
Is it in New Jersey? Yeah, born and raised in central New Jersey. And every Christmas morning we would do one of these Lego sets when all the adults were nursing their hangovers from the night before. My grandpa and I would just get up early and do the Lego sets. And then one year my parents got it was a Steven Spielberg Lego set, and it was the coolest fucking thing on the planet.
Now, the Lego set of him, or
no? So what you built was the back lot of a movie set.
Oh my gosh, that's so dope.
It was cool. It was you built a little city, and there was a little dinosaur.
Wait, that's amazing.
But that was the set, and then you built the crew people and the lights and all that stuff too, and that in and of itself was cool. But then, the book that tells you how to build the Lego set.
Yeah.
You flipped it over and it was a storyboard for this little Lego animation movie, and it came with this little camera and this little editing software. This was a kid's toy, and you taught you how to shoot this scene. And at that point, I stopped playing with Legos because now I had a camera that I could shoot stuff with, and it was the coolest thing. And from that point on, I mean, I was hooked. I was, stealing my dad's camcorder on every family vacation. I played sports in high school, and really I sat the bench in sports in high school. So I edited all my friends' highlight reels and stuff. And I was shooting comedy sketches on mini DV tape in my backyard with friends. And so that was I knew right away, oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then combine that with the fact that around that time was peak Andy Samberg, Lonely Island, SNL era.
Yeah.
And the idea that
boat,
the idea that you could do sketch comedy on film, and that's a job you can do on television. I was sign me up. This is it.
Sure. Well, I'm just amazed at this Lego set that I am literally, as soon as we get off the Zoom, I'm going to buy because I want to play with this. I'm not even kidding. This sounds incredible. I did not know about this.
I probably, my brother, like, he sells individual Lego pieces online. He's also a huge Lego guy, and like he makes a living doing it.
All right, well,
Probably
we're
sure he
gonna
has
have
it.
to ask him.
Yeah.
So you were more, so this Lego set got you going, and then it was comedy that brought you in, really, like, was like the hook into the mouth, right?
Yeah. I mean, there were a couple times in like middle school and high school that I tried to do like a drama short, and I learned very quickly that anytime I tried to write serious stuff, it became self-parody or
funny.
just
Yeah, I get it.
it became funny. And so I like, I feel like filmmakers always have that find your voice conversation, and that's always a thing that artists are kind of talking about, is like, oh, how do I find my voice? And for me, it was like, oh, I'm bad at being serious, and like nothing I do can stay serious for long. And so, yeah, I mean, to your point, like comedy was, it's what I just was naturally attracted to, but also like I grew up on old reruns of like original cast, Belushi, Aykroyd, Gilda Radner, SNL. Like my dad had all the tapes. I saw the Blues Brothers when I was like 11 years old, and that unlocked a new thing because I'm also a musician, and so it really was just I enjoyed it. It was fun to be the funny guy, and by the time I started getting really serious into writing, screenwriting, and just the idea of telling stories on screen, the idea of being like the host of a show was fun.
It's fun to be the funny guy if you're funny.
Right.
Which seems like you are. Now, what was, because I always like to ask this, and since you bring up the Blues Brothers, give me 3 of your favorite comedies of all time.
Are we talking film?
Let's go with film and then TV.
Okay. The Blues Brothers, My Cousin Vinny.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes.
And A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger.
Never would have guessed that.
It is like unironically a hilarious, like
it is a spoof.
The visual comedy in that movie is right on.
And he was great in that. That's a great My Cousin Vinny, I think I always say this is a perfect screenplay. Like, it's a perfectly structured story for anyone at home that wants to learn comedy. Zach brought up a great one. My Cousin Vinny. Watch the film, study the film, look at the structure, read the screenplay. Like, it is perfect. What about your 3 top 10, top 3 favorite comedy shows?
Favorite comedy shows? I have Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a perfect show. I love it so much. If we're talking sitcom, I want to say How I Met Your Mother.
Yes.
It does not get enough love because of just the way it kind of kept going on, but like that is such a tight show. The jokes are incredible. They never forget a second shoe drop. Seasons later, you get a callback to a joke, and it's brilliant. And then, I mean, I could say The Office or Seinfeld. I don't want to. I mean, lately, Hacks. Hacks is a brilliant show, and I've really been enjoying it.
I'm a big How I Met Your Mother fan. I really think it's, like you said, it's one of the underrated shows, sitcoms, like, of all time. Like, I could watch that over and over. Like you said, they always know how to do a callback. They don't let us second shoe drop. It's perfect. Acting's incredible. Again, if you want to study TV, look at this. Zach, you're doing my job for me. Go watch How I Met Your Mother, study the pilot, study the episodes, and we'll look at their structure because, as Zach said, it is so tight. They know what to do, and TV structure is a little bit different than film, but you'll see the cadence and how it works, and it is brilliant. Okay, so now you're fully hooked into story and comedy and filmmaking. You go to film school? No. Right?
So I wanted to. After high school, I went to Rutgers University in New Jersey, which at the time did not have a film program. It does now, and that's kind of part of...
What were you going to study?
I mean, I wanted to study filmmaking. I was applying to, as a kid, Tisch and USC and all those places, and got rejected from all of them. So I went to Rutgers, which is good old state college in New Jersey. Went to study journalism and broadcast television because that was at the time that was the closest they had to filmmaking. Mm-hmm. And I was like the one kind of I want to make movies kid in a class that was primarily like broadcast journalists. and like news anchors. That said, though, it was fucking cool because I lived in a special interest housing for like TV students, and like in your like college dorm or whatever, instead of having like the lounge, like there was that common area. Mm-hmm. Instead of that, this dorm building, they gutted the lounge and it was the TV studio for the school. Mm-hmm. So I lived down the hall from the television station, and at like 2 a.m, we could, roll out of bed, swipe out gear, and we shot comedy sketches all year long.
Oh,
like
cool.
It was so cool. There were no rules. We kind of did our own thing, and we literally lived at the TV station at Rutgers. And at the same time, like friends of mine we were shooting short films all the time. Like it was definitely the school of like DIY, do it yourself, the Kevin Smith ethos of filmmaking. And the more we did it, the more we got involved with student film festivals out in Los Angeles. There was this group called Campus Movie Fest that kind of came to school and allowed you to, like, if you didn't have a camera, they'd give you a camera to use for a week. And that was just truly unfiltered chaos, creative freedom. It was great. Met some of my lifelong collaborators that I still work with and write with today, were my buddies from undergrad. All the while that was happening, like Rutgers was getting they were thinking about starting a film program, but they didn't want to. They didn't know if there was interest. So I basically wrote a curriculum for the school and said, "Hey, I want to do this," and they said, okay, we don't know what this is, but as long as you get a real degree, you can do this other thing instead of a minor.
Yeah.
And so and then every semester, because you had to like write like a paper. And so my freshman year, I like wrote this thing saying, if, I want to do filmmaking classes, and if you don't have that, so here's my plan for what college is going to be like. And I wrote into the thing like, hey, if you just happen to add any new classes down the road, they'll count for my degree, because you don't have any now. But like if you add them later, whatever it is, they'll count. And they signed off on that. And at that point, one of my professors was like, that she took that and ran with it. And then every semester they added like a directing class and a cinematography class and and so I did that for 4 years. I was kind of like the guinea pig for like a curriculum, like a filmmaking curriculum at Rutgers. And by the time I graduated, like now there's a full BFA program at Mason Gross School of the Arts at Rutgers, where I actually teach now in the summers, which I love wholeheartedly. So it was cool. I kind of got to do like sort of a DIY. It wasn't really film school type of a thing. And then while I was doing that, I got very interested in graduate school. Because one of my professors at Rutgers got his MFA, and I wanted, after 4 years of kind of Build-A-Bear, do-it-yourself kind of film school adjacent, I really wanted like the kind of traditional experience. Combined with the fact that if I don't have deadlines and I can't be self-sustaining. Like I need someone to say, do this or you fail,
How were your parents? Were they into your career choice? I always ask this with creators.
Yeah, now I love them to death. They've been the greatest support. My family in general is the greatest support system. My parents, my 2 sisters, I love them. It took some convincing at the time. Yeah. Like when I distinctly remember this moment. It was my freshman year at Rutgers, and it was like a student film festival on campus. And my film won one of the awards that night. And my dad, who was always like my, little league coach and stuff growing up, I distinctly remember this moment where he kind of says, okay, all right, so you're going to do this, huh? Because at the time he was like, yeah, maybe like film will be the minor. Maybe you get like a business degree and minor in art, which is impossible. Like you can't do that. But he was like, all right, so you're going to do this. Okay. But you're going to be the best. You're going to put the work in. You're going to make this your thing. You're going to do this, Yeah. And now he's like my biggest fan. He'll call me up on like a Sunday and say, "Hey, I got this idea for a movie. You got to think about it."
Oh, that's fun.
But yeah, so they were very supportive, and I was able to do a lot at a school that at the time didn't really have an organized system. And then when it was my senior year, I applied to graduate school. I applied to USC, Tisch at NYU, and Columbia. And I was working at MTV at the time, at my senior year in college, like kind of in their on-air promos department. this like, you know, those here's what's coming up next on Teen Wolf. So and so does this. Tune in at 5. You know, I was working there, and I got rejected from 2 out of the 3 schools, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to grad school. I'm just gonna be a filmmaker in the city, and I'm just gonna, you know, work in television. And then Columbia accepted me for their master's program, so I went straight in from college to grad school at Columbia for their television writing part of their film program there. So, and that was a whole other experience.
Yeah. Well, so then you go through Columbia, right? You get your MFA, and then tell us about how like you got into the business, right? Like when was it like postgraduate program that you actually started working? If you did, like tell us what was your plan of action after that?
Yeah, so I got my first couple jobs, like my first like real entertainment jobs while I was still in school, actually. And that was it was very much a simultaneous process. Like I was making industry pathways while also at school. I mean, my very first job in all of television, it was the summer after my sophomore year of undergrad. It was, do you know those ESPN, the 30 for 30 documentaries? I was the director's assistant and the office PA for the documentary about Bo Jackson.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
and it was nice. I'm a little biased, but I do think it was one of their better 30 for 30s, and that was just my first like production experience. But then, my first like real job in television, I was an intern at Late Night with Seth Meyers, and I did that. Columbia was weird because it was a 4-year MFA. It was 2 years of class and then 2 years of artist in residency. Like your thesis years. And so my first year of that like thesis artist in resident period, so this was like 2016. I was the monologue intern at Late Night with Seth Meyers.
Oh, cool.
And that was kind of my first job in late night, first job really in like kind of broadcast television. And it was crash course in joke writing.
So tell us what you learned from that. Like, you know, you're interning for, you know, there's a system of how they do the monologues and what, you know, every host has their own shtick. But like, what did you learn working for?
When I was at Seth Meyers, my job was to basically write the front half of every monologue joke. I was sitting outside the head writer's office and the writer's room, and I would researching all the news stories, like, Donald Trump did this thing today, or, you know, a man in Florida did this thing. And I had to like research the stories, find the stories, condense them in, like, write the copy for like the 1 sentence, like joke premise that, you know, cause we would feed the writers just pages and pages of these joke premises. So that way they didn't have to do the research. They can just sit there, read the premise and be funny. But, you know, I played volleyball in high school and college, and the way I looked at it was like, it was, you know, I knew I was doing a good job if I could find 3 different ways in on a joke from the same story. And it was a lot of like anticipating what the punchline is going to be, so you could work backwards to write the joke setup. And it was a lot like being the setter in volleyball, and like knowing I got to know where to put the ball, so that way the hitter can just go there and make the kill. So it was I learned so much just from joke structure and writing for Seth's voice, and truly the nicest person on the planet. I was the first one in the office every morning. He was the second one in the office every morning, and we always had a really, really nice exchange. And it also taught me that, like, hey, you know, work culture, whatever job it is, definitely comes from the guy at the top. And it, you know, you the people at that show love to work for that show. That's very clear.
Yeah.
And then I did that for a semester, and it was during the 2016 election, which was a very interesting time for comedy.
A lot of fodder there.
Yeah, a lot of real talk, you know. And I did that for a semester, and then NBC was like, you can't repeat your internship, so you have to go somewhere else. So I went over to Fallon. I did the same thing at Fallon's show. I was like the writer's intern. And that was a bit of a different experience because the staff was much larger. So there were like 3 writer's assistants instead of 1. So that one I did a little more. It was more like lunch and coffee type stuff, and like helping the script coordinator distribute pages and everything. But
was Jimmy in second next to you, or did he come in a little bit later?
Jimmy came in a little bit later. They kept him. They keep him busy.
That's
but that was cool because, you know, and this is another lesson that you learn in. We're just working in film and TV, that it's very easy to fuck up the lunch order. you know, and it's very easy to not pay attention to those little details. And, you know, but basically if you do that correctly, and if you can be if you can be the person that they trust you to get the lunch orders right, then they start to get to know you, and then they want to help you out. And, you know, and so that was like, if working at Seth Meyers was like, here's the school of comedy writing, working at Fallon was a lot of like, here's how to be a good like PA basically. And here's how to, you know, here's how to navigate production, and just be the person that like, oh, we trust you to do this. You did this well. Now we'll ask you to do this cooler thing.
I want to stop you there, because this is great. And this is, I think, for everyone at home as well, is like, look, we all want to get to the top quick. We all want to be out of college, directing a film, you know, starring in movies, etc. But take what Zack's doing. He took his job, and there was a great book called The Fred Experiment about a postal worker who like really owned his job and how happy he was and how it affected his life. Same thing with Zack. Like, from what you're saying, like, you took the PA job and you just like, if my job is to get lunch, I'm gonna fucking get the best lunch ever. One, for job pride, but also it's going to help you get into the business, right? If you're pleasant to work with, if you're busting your ass, people do notice that. And like, there are people that want to help you along your career. You may think it's a dog-eat-dog world. I gotta claw my way to the top. No one's looking out for me. That's not true. People will look out for you, but they want to see that you're busting your ass, that you're really putting in the time. You know, Seth Meyers, I guarantee, knew that Zack was the first one in, and he made mental notes, right? Like, this is how it goes in the business. So like, whatever you're doing, maybe shitty getting coffee on set or whatever, tying up wires, like, make it your job to crush that. Because I'm telling you, the dividends will pay off later down the road. I will like love that you brought that up.
Yeah, and I appreciate you shouting that out, because I mean, I teach students now, like the college class, and like, that's all we talk about is like, just no one, like, don't be a dick, right? Be just the nice person. It's one of those things where like, you inherently, as like a normal person in society, know, yes, of course, I know I'm gonna have to pay my dues. I know I'm gonna have to like do that job, but sometimes it took me like hearing that from someone telling me, hey man, just do good at this. Like, if you can get this, just crush the lunch order thing, and then we'll let you do other stuff, you know?
So you're crushing lunch orders and Jimmy Fallon, like, where do you go from there?
Yeah. So I mean, and what was cool about that was I was because I was in grad school, I was a little older. So I was 25, 26 when all the other interns were like 18, 19. So then, you know, when stuff like, hey, Taylor Swift's here, can you just show her where her room is? Or like, oh, Ed Sheeran needs the bathroom, can you walk him to the, you know, there were some of those cool, you get to do those cool things because you do lunch well, you know. From Fallon, I went over to SNL in the script department, and that's where I started script coordinating, you know, and then so I did a semester there. After all of that, I'm like finishing grad school. My thesis film was a musical comedy that I'm writing and directing. I'm in post on it at the time, and I'm like, I think I want to step away from the internships because I kind of did all 3 shows. I'm like, I'm good, you know, let me go finish, like, actually graduate from grad school and be done with that. Fallon actually calls me back to say, hey, our writer's assistant just left. Do you want to come and actually do like the big job? And I'm like, okay, hell yeah, like, of course, you know. Wow. And you say yes to those opportunities that come your way. So like, I'm back at Fallon as the writer's assistant, like with all the writers, monologue team, you know, this is like grand total of 2 years at NBC at the time. And my thesis film from grad school starts making rounds in the film festival circuit. It ends up getting nominated for, and then eventually winning, the Television Academy Student Emmy Award for comedy for 2019. And that
golf clap right there. Love it.
Thank you. That award brings me out to Los Angeles, and kind of gets me like my first meetings. I got my first manager because before that award happened, I was at a SNL after party at like 2 a.m, and I get like a tap on the shoulder, and it's this woman, and she's like, Zack, I know you. Why do I know you? And I'm like, I know you. Why do I know you? And we played that game for a second, and we realized, like, years ago when Facebook first started, our one friend was like, friend my other friend from summer camp, and then we can be Facebook friends or whatever. So for 10 years, this person's popping up on my Facebook feed, and now, and you know, and she's like, oh, that's how we know each other. What are you doing here? I'm like, oh, I work at the show. I'm here. She's like, oh, I'm a lit manager.
Oh, no way.
I'm, you know, like, and so we get talking about that, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a comedy writer. I'm finishing grad school. My film's doing this thing. She's like, send me your work. Send me what you got. And when you're out in LA, give me a call. Yeah, and that was the conversation. And then so, you know, immediately I go home and book a, you know, plan to go to LA at some point. And so I'm out for the Television Academy thing. My film wins that award. And so basically she's like, I'm going to rep you. Let me be your first manager. So I start getting, you know, meetings in Los Angeles and meeting with people and trying to pitch myself and doing packets. And, you know, 2019 was a fantastic year to be living in Los Angeles, working in television. It's like everything that like little baby me would have thought. Oh, we're working in the pictures. We're making movies. We're doing lunch in Beverly Hills.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah, you know, because everyone sounds like that out there. You know,
it's just the player,
right,
all year.
Right.
Yeah,
Truly, it's like every other week I'm taking a meeting with like a producer at Universal who wants to, like, we're talking about adapting my grad school thesis film into a show. I'm submitting packets for like this show and this show and this show, and like everything's going great. And then 2020 hits and the world shuts down.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that was a very, very interesting time. And like, it just like clockwork, everything vanishes. Everything just goes away, you know? And then it's like back to square one, you know?
So what did you do? I mean, like, this is the low point. We're in our story here, and we're doing 3-act structure. We're in the dark night of the soul. No, but
right.
So yeah, I mean, I just moved back to New York during COVID. Felt the same thing. Like, LA just shut down. All our my project, everything just stopped. It was like a very like good moment to look insular. But what did you do? Like, how did you confront the beast of 2020?
Yeah, and I mean, that's where, you know, it's one of those weird, like, everyone's, you know, especially in comedy, it's like you take your pain and then you figure out a way to make it funny for other people. You know, like during the pandemic, I start reading, because I'm in LA during the pandemic, and just I do 2020 all in Los Angeles, and, you know, with roommates, and we're like hunkered down, and, you know, every day we're shooting little sketches in our apartment, and you know, ending the night watching. We were going through all of Monty Python, nice. Flying Circus, so we were just kind of in comedy brain. And I read a newspaper article about this town because of the pandemic, we closed the borders with Canada, which is like the first time maybe in history we ever really did that. And there's this town in northern Vermont called Derby Line, where the border runs through the middle of the town. Like, it bisects the town. It's like one town and two countries. And prior to the pandemic, no one really cared, you know. But then the thesis of this article was like, hey, well, we closed the borders for the pandemic, but what do we do when there's one gas station and it's on this side, and there's one supermarket and it's on this side, you know? And I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. Like, that's a sitcom. And so I start writing this script, and it truly just like out of a pandemic fuck it mentality of like, I need to do something to not go insane. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I start writing this script for this sitcom, because at the time my manager's like, yeah, you know, you need some kind of jokey type of a piece. You know, my thesis, the stuff I wrote in grad school was a little bit more kind of thinky, a little more soft humor. She's like, you know, you should have something that's kind of a hard, multiple jokes per page, like network sitcom piece. Anyway, so I'm already kind of in this like writer brain. And I start writing the show that ends up becoming Canusa Street, which is a pilot, you know, kind of sitcom about the border patrol in this town. And one agent is an American, and her twin sister is a Canadian Mountie, and they have this like Super Troopers like crosstown rivalry thing over like the smallest stakes possible, where it's like an international felony to go across the street to your neighbor's house to, like, you know, borrow a cup of sugar or whatever people do when they go talk to their neighbor, you know. And because it's a real place, I'm just fascinated by this world. And so I'm just going like into deep dive into this very stranger than fiction type of a place. And I do like a table read with just over Zoom with friends, and I tell them like, hey guys, because they know I'm a filmmaker, so I'm like, hey guys, I'm never gonna shoot this. Don't give me notes on like production value and producibility. Let's just read it for jokes. And and have fun. And lo and behold, 2 years later, I'm going into production, making that show and shooting that pilot. And it just, the more I like fell in love with the script, the more it was like it was manifesting itself. Like after 2020 happens, I submit the script to a bunch of places. It doesn't really go anywhere. 2021, I moved back to New York. I'm back at NBC. They were doing a spinoff of Fallon called The Kids Tonight Show. It's kind of like it was on Peacock, but it was very like all that Nickelodeon.
I love all that. All that.
It was so much fun. It ran for a season. I thought we were going to do more, but they canceled it. But I was one of the script coordinators there, and I get like my phone starts blowing up one day, and I have to actually step out of the office because it's like ping, 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 ping. Someone on the blacklist downloaded the script, gave it like the highest score, and that like fed the system, and now a bunch of industry people were downloading it, and it just it hit the algorithm, So then I start getting conversations with people who knew me from my thesis film, and are like, hey, is this your project? Is this gonna be your big one? I might want to invest. Like, is it, and I'm like, what do I do with my hands? I don't know.
Yeah.
I go to a film festival in northern Minnesota. That's like a television writing festival, and Canusa Street wins the festival's writing competition. So then I'm like meeting people in Minnesota that are like, are you gonna shoot this here? And I'm like, no one shoots a pilot. Like, no one does that. And that's exactly what we did. Like it was just, the snowball was happening. The train left the station, and the Minnesota folks were like, hey, it's now, I don't know, November of 2021, and they're like, hey, we have an opening in our slate for the state's production rebate program, where every state has their tax incentive program, like 30% back. Like New York does that, New Jersey, Georgia with all the Marvel movies do that, and Minnesota's like, we do 70% back on the dollar, not 30%. And I'm like, oh, this is a crazy thing that like I have to capitalize on, on this. And I go to potential investors, and they're like, hey, I can get you maybe 40, maybe 50% back after it all balances out. And they're like, okay, cool. Here's the money. And it just, I couldn't say no to any of it. It was just the opportunities were presenting itself in a way that I'm like, oh, this is why I got into filmmaking. If this is my one chance, I'm not going to, balk at this opportunity. I'm just going to say yes and as the universe keeps spiraling this thing to me. And then we shot it, and then we were able to raise $300,000 to produce this television pilot. And it was just, that was a life-changing experience to be able to actually do like a big thing outside. Like it was like all the resources that would have went into what my first feature inevitably is down the road went into this project at the time. And it was amazing.
That's incredible. I'm fascinated to know specifically. I've heard a lot about different producers going to kind of like what you said with Minnesota, these smaller regional festivals where there actually is a lot of opportunity for like financing for features. How did you kind of go about like finding financiers and getting your pilot financed, I guess from scratch?
Yeah, it was kind of a combination of a few factors. I mean, one was the 10 years of prior relationship building that I had before that, right? Like everything that came from all the shorts I made in undergrad that got me into grad school, that got me to my thesis film that won that Emmy award. Like there was relationships that were built over that period of time that were kind of those, like, you have that card, you keep that card in your pocket, and you can like make that phone call once and you kind of hold on to that, So that was sort of one element of it. The second was when there was statistical industry heat on the script at the time. Like there was, the blacklist was one of those public facing aggregates that you could point to and say, hey, this is a accepted metric for if a script is good or not. And they say it's good. Coverfly was another one that is now no longer existing, but at the time, Canusa Street was in like the top 1% of all script. It was like one of the top comedy scripts of all time on that website. So I was able to go to investors and say, hey, I can prove, like, statistically that there's industry interest in this beyond, like, here's a bunch of shows that are similar to it that have done well, you know, pointing to, like, Parks and Rec. We pointed to It's Always Sunny from kind of the scrappy indie side. We pointed to Insecure, which Issa Rae did in kind of the similar DIY space. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, very heavy, you know, kind of narrative structural influence on Canusa Street. And so we pointed to that. Like, we could, in our kind of pitch to investors, we had, here's all the soft metrics of like, the industry likes this. Ted Lasso just splashed. Here's another comedy with heart. But there was no, you know, it's always hard to prove that that's correct. So having that like external validation of these, you know, kind of industry aggregates also
like
validating it.
You're using data. This is what Kinolime's all about, right? Using data to make an informed decision about a project, and you're using the accolades that it was receiving at the time to get investor dollar. I think that's great.
It was very entrepreneurial in that sense. Like I had to look at it as I'm now selling a product, you know, and have to put a business plan together. So combined all of those things with now Minnesota's interest in the project. You know, they introduced me to a lot of local, you know, our kind of production people, you know, our producers in Minnesota that were, you know, introduced us to all of our production services. And it was the right place, right time for them because they were trying to prove to the state that there was interest. And a year or two after we wrapped, they passed like a written into state law $50 million for independent film production in the state of Minnesota. It was like the one thing politically everyone agreed on was that movies are good because money is good, you know. Which now like New Jersey's doing that with Netflix great. And everything. So it really was like going to investors with, hey, here's the plan, here's why the script is good, here's why other people say it's good, and here's a way that we can get you some of your money back almost immediately to mitigate a little bit of the risk. It was like any other indie film, light your money on fire. The worst that's going to happen is we get you 30 to 40% back in a couple months, and that's what we did. And instead, because most of these programs are designed to roll that money back into post or to or you can use that to settle debt financing that you did in pre-production. I was like, screw it, let's attempt to make the investors whole partially in the beginning, as sort of a sign of good faith, and so that was sort of the process for us. And then we also at the same time we wanted to do like a full version of it. We didn't want to do like, oh, here's the 5-minute short film shot in New York City white wall apartments with some costumes. Let's actually show you what an episode of our show looks like. And that was a big kind of thesis behind the level of production that we put into it.
Nice. So then you shoot the pilot, you wrap. What's next from there?
At that point, I cut the show. So I wrote and directed the pilot episode. I also cut the show myself. So I go into the editing hole and I'm house sitting for some friends in Laurel Canyon in Los Angeles, cutting the show over a summer. And that's 2020, late 2022, going into 2023. Like we're trying to hit beginning of 2023 festival circuit. And then the strike starts. Yep. Boom. And so like it's like we're just coming off the pandemic. Yeah. And I'm starting to feel good. And then the world shuts down for a second time. Mm-hmm. And so now like there's because there's rules about what we can and can't do in terms of trying to sell a project at that time. And it was a lot of like putting the show on ice to a certain extent because I was out picketing. And so that was a whole other chapter where we were able to screen at festivals that accepted us, but I couldn't have any business meetings about the show. So we had our world premiere at Dances with Films in July of 2023, and that kind of kicks off our festival run. And we do festivals for about 2 years. Like the strike ends October or November of 2023, and then we're kind of like, all right, let's get back into business sales. Let's try to pitch the show mode, and we screen at Nashville. We screen at a few places in New York, a few places in LA. Played at Kevin Smith's theater in Atlantic Highlands, which was a lot of fun. And so we just spend the next 2 years, 2023 or 24 and 25, trying to pitch the show and sell it. And that's kind of still now my sort of back burner goal. What happens in that time, though, is like when we were doing our festival run, festivals didn't really know what to do with a 30-minute pilot. You know, like South by and Tribeca like Sundance that year just launched a pilot category. I think Tribeca was maybe in their second year of doing it, but it was still this like new thing. Like shorts for festivals need to be under 15 minutes or else they're never going to get programmed. There's holes that shorts can fill. And then there's like the awkward 45 minutes is technically a feature, but no one's going to make a 45-minute feature film, you know? So there was this big gap between like 30 and 60 of, just nothing gets made in this range. Well, now you have a lot of filmmakers who are making independent television shows and indie pilots. And so since 2023, that was before Mark Duplass got on his indie TV kind of train that he's now on. So like now the industry is starting to pick up on the fact that they've been sleeping on a whole genre of material that's being made independently. So like now there's this whole culture shift going around Hollywood at the moment where you can independently finance and produce a low budget series the way you would an indie feature and just sell the whole product on its own, like, and go straight to streamers with it. Because development hell is worse now than it's ever been. You have A-list celebrities who are not getting their projects through because no one in development on the studio side wants to take the financial risk of paying for the development fees, the writer's room, and any of that stuff. But for that same reason, it's why you're seeing a million different like British cop shows on the front page of Netflix and Hulu right now because acquisitions are through the roof because everyone needs more material.
They need the content.
And also it's kind of funny, like as all these streamers mature and they're starting to, you know, like if you don't want an ad-supported Netflix, it's like almost $30, and the streamers are, you know, consolidating and also coming to terms like, oh, maybe we do like 22-minute sitcoms with 20 episodes a season because we need people to keep watching for the ads. It's just turning into cable television again.
Right. And I think like now that I think we're past the quote golden age of peak TV with streaming, because I think everyone's realized like, there's a reason we used to make television shows affordable at 22 episodes a season with full writer. Like there's a whole reason we did that for 70 years before Netflix launched House of Cards, you know? And I think so many of the issues that led to the strikes in 2023 were direct results of that business model being entirely unsustainable. And I think now we're just getting to, I mean, Abbott Elementary gives me hope with their 18-episode seasons. You know, I feel like shows like The Pitt are demonstrating that not only are long seasons good, but the weekly release model that we used to do for decades.
You see that in anime, you know, like Attack on Titan and all the other shows where they have like 30 episodes a season. People devour that. You know, they want to see more than an 8-episode season. They're craving it.
It's also largely why, like, if you really think about Netflix's IP, like, how many shows do they have that you could really think of as like, these are cultural touchstones that will live forever?
Right. Yeah.
Not many, because you don't really live with them that long.
You don't live with them long enough.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm active on Twitter mainly just as a joke at this point, because it's very entertaining. But someone was like, why is there no Gen Z sitcom the way millennials had Girls and How I Met Your Mother and our parents had Seinfeld and
Married with Children
and Friends and all this stuff. And like I wrote this whole thing that basically was like we there's been a 10-year gap where we just have not made shows that way. And it's the reason all the most popular shows on Netflix and whatever is The Office or Friends or these massive library
Seinfeld
shows.
Is still huge with that.
Seinfeld, it's like they were so cheap to produce and they became these cultural touchstones that, you know, and it's weird that we abandoned all of that to make these like 9-hour movie series.
So it's kind of weird.
Slowly as every studio begins to like start making television again, you get a show like The Pit where it's like, oh my god, this show's amazing. Why hasn't this been done before? And I'm like, well, it has been. It's 24 at a hospital,
except at a hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not to belittle the amazing writing that's happening on The Pit. It's just it's like there's I think audiences want a TV show to watch, you know, and not a 9-hour movie that it's like you got to get through the first 3 episodes because it really picks up in episode 4.
I hate that excuse. I hear it all the time. You just got to suffer through. No, I don't want to suffer through 3 or 4 episodes to get to maybe a good part of the project.
Like your pilot isn't a good pilot if all the important stuff happens in episode 2.
Exactly.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
So and so for me, like what really gives me hope is that one, it's never been more possible to make anything now. So I'm out here trying to, as much as I would love to like get Canusa Street at a, at NBC or at HBO or one of these places, there's a very real, like it's a business opportunity worth pursuing on my end. Like what if we tried to make season 1 ourselves? You know, what if because then we would have 8 episodes or 6 episodes or whatever, and we could walk in the front door at Tubi or Roku or Hulu or whatever.
Just say, here's your full season. Write a check. It's yours.
Yeah. And so I think the combination of like production being more affordable now that all these states are having these incredible incentive programs, combined with the fact that I think audiences just want a TV show to watch. They want sitcoms. They want haha funny. I'm staying optimistic despite all the other insanity in the world going on. I'm trying to make my stuff.
It is, and I think we'll kind of like exit the interview there because I think that you're giving so much hope. Like I'm like as you're talking, I'm thinking about other like little projects, like some TV stuff. I'm mostly in features, but still, like it's like man, like you're right. Like the model is broken, but it's such an opportunity to be fixed. Not to be, haha, pun intended, to be fixed. You know what I mean? Like where you're just going out and doing it. And I really hope and pray you like make your season 1. Let us know, keep us updated. Like we're big fans of your work. And like, I just love that you're out there grinding. Like this is a great lesson again for everyone at home is like, go make your own destiny. Zach's doing it, right? Like the industry has a way of closing some doors, and it is cheesy, but it's true. If another door closes, another one opens, right? It's the truth. It gives you an opportunity. TV, people will always tune in. People want television, but we get to design and decide in a way like how that ship goes. So Zach's out there hustling on the street doing his thing. You could do it too. Go film your pilot. And you may not need the studio lighting. Go film with miniatures or other things or dolls. Like there's so many ways to get across what you're doing on the page and effectively doing it. Zach's doing it. You can do it too. Zach, any parting words for our loyal fan base here that are just craving insight and tips, and what would you pass on?
I mean, I feel like to that point, you hit the nail on the head in the sense that you really can just go make it. I'm seeing a lot of like, I'm running into a lot of people who are like, oh my God, you got it. Like AI is the future and you gotta like, it's impossible to make a movie without artificial intelligence. Just like accept it. It's gotta happen. And I'm at the same time, I'm like, literally yesterday, Canon released a camera that's like the most incredible video camera they've ever released ever for under $3,000. And I'm like, you can shoot on you can shoot with on anything these days, but 2, like the equipment's never been more accessible. The knowledge base has never been more accessible. And at the end of the day, like just write a good screenplay, like actually like a good screenplay, and have not friends but colleagues chew it up and give you real notes and be open to those real notes. But if you can write something good, you'll find a way to make it. And if it's a good story, like you can shoot a good story on a phone and it'll be better than like a great movie or than a bad movie shot on the most expensive equipment, So just, I don't know. I know some people have issue with the just go do it because it implies a degree of privilege or whatever the fuck. But I'm like, everyone's got a phone in their pocket. You can shoot something today,
Amen. Zack Morris, son, thank you so much for your time, man. We'd love to have you on again. And I mean, like everyone out there, can they read Canusa Street? Can they vote for things? Like how could our base help you out?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me on all the places.
Where do we find you?
Instagram and Twitter are the big ones, at Zack Morrison 18, because we all still have our high school football jersey number and our handles from 20 years ago.
I'm 17,
but then,
bro. I get it.
But then if you just Google me, you'll find my website. It has all my work. That musical comedy film, Everything's Fine, A Panic Attack in D Major, is on there. I'm writing for a late night podcast right now called The Dump, where I'm just doing jokey jokes and silly voices, and hopefully we get Canusa Street out there someday.
Great.
So,
I'm going to check it out. I can't wait to read it. We're going to post everything in our links, in our comments. But Zack, thank you so much, dude. Really appreciate it. Best of luck on your journey. And don't be a stranger. And when you're in New York, come to the studio. Let's get you in person.
Yeah.
I'd love to see
I'd love that. Really appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your time.
Heck yeah, man.
If you got something out of today's podcast, please share it with your filmmaking and screenwriting community and hit subscribe. It genuinely helps us keep making these. We need them, and we'll see you in the next one.